right, everyone. Welcome into this Thursday edition of Wave Extra. Joining us here in the Wave Now studio is yours truly, Jose Sosaya. I always love to have our Wave Sports anchor, Dusty Baker, breaking things down for us. Dusty has such a way, not only with understanding, the ins and outs of each team we're going to break down for you tonight, but just the infectious energy and especially a jolt for us as we're kind of going closer to the weekend, kind of running out of steam if we hadn't eaten some early cake.
Oh, God.
When you have parties at the office and you're hoping for that bit of the sugar rush from the cake
Try
folks,
cakes.
I think most of you will understand what we're talking about. But nonetheless, we're happy you're joining us right now, whether that's through the Wave Now Smart TV app, through all the different social media channels. We're going to start off the bat with talking football because, by the way, Dusty, as we're discussing, and we have our monitors around us in the studio, watching the pregame for Cowboys, Eagles. A proud alumnus, too, by the way, if you want to shout out your TCU Horned Frogs.
Yeah.
Dusty, the floor is yours to start, at least on this part, and I'll get back to the point we're going to have that conversation.
I'm very grateful for all the kind words Jose just said right there. None of them are true except for the alumni part. That is true, Jose. Very proud of the Frogs this week. Nobody was talking about TCU at all leading up to the big bowl that was going up against Belichick on Monday. And I think the Frogs proved pretty quickly why they deserve some discussion. Neither the Frogs nor Louisville are in the top 25. If you want to go to my Twitter, you'll understand where I stand on that issue. Not particularly thrilled by that, but it's so early in the year, Jose, that granted, the AP poll just doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but it would be nice to see some teams like U of L and, of course, like TCU getting the recognition they deserve. But instead, now that the Frogs blew out Belichick, it's all about how bad UNC was. So we can never give credit where credit is due.
Well, both things could be true if you're someone who's trying to analyze the offensive playbook. If I remember from all these years watching the Patriots dominate in the NFL, that defense was supposed to be the claim to fame.
Yes.
And you could now dissect, and you can do it in good faith about saying, was the defensive coverage just not what it should have been against the TCU offense? You might argue, Dusty, no, they had the weapons and the scheme to counter a Bill Belichick. And I guess that opens a can of worms for another discussion.
Josh Hoover deserves a lot of recognition,
Yes.
the quarterback for TCU. And you've seen rankings now come out, and I do think he's getting some respect. I mean, you saw CBS Sports rank him #1 as the #1 quarterback in the country this week, which is kind of amazing that nobody was talking about him a week ago. But
well, because they talk about the presumptive favorite is what? Arch Manning.
Arch Manning
Garrett,
going into this thing. Lenore Sellers was another one.
What's his name? Garrett Nussmeier from LSU.
Nussmeier for LSU. Those are kind of the ones that we're getting in. And there really, a lot of talk has been there haven't been a lot of quarterbacks that have looked all that impressive, at least this early on. I mean, we're talking about it's been 1.5 weeks, right? You had week 0 and you had this past week 1. Another quarterback that I think deserves some recognition is Miller Moss. And of course, as you turn your attention to this week, we're going to see him play on Friday night, of course, facing off against JMU. JMU's a sneaky team, by the way, Jose. Last year, we were talking about North Carolina, right? They blew out North Carolina in a weird way. Okay, the final score was 70-50. That is not even a football score. That's a basketball score right there. But JMU can come to play, and I would expect that U of L will actually have their hands full here on a Friday night in which, of course, JMU has a lot of weapons, but U of L does too. And so when you look at what U of L was able to display in their opener, yes, it was against EKU, a team they were supposed to blow out. I'm not going to jump into major conclusions, but one I will, and I think the whole country has recognized this at this time, is Isaac Brown is probably the best running back in the country right now.
Sophomore Isaac Brown. And you presume perhaps, given his ceiling, this is somebody, we're going to probably hear his name called in the NFL draft.
Yes.
The time is right.
Yes.
And whenever that year happens, he and his family and his agent will have that discussion. But to say as a sophomore, you're only building on your resume. Talk about, for a quarterback in a new offense like Miller Moss to have the weapon in your running game, doesn't that relieve a lot of pressure?
And you saw that play right there. Miller Moss able to do
mobility out of the pocket as well.
Keeps it himself, takes to the end zone wide open. And then, of course, you have Isaac Brown able to bust off these 60-plus yard rushing touchdowns. It opens up the ground game even further when Miller Moss has the flexibility he does. And also, how about this? Perfect timing for this talk. Duke Watson is probably a #1 running back on most teams in the country. There he is right there out of the backfield with a touchdown grab as well. So U of L has weapons on weapons weapons on weapons. Keywan Brown is their third string running back, probably would be a second or maybe even a starter on most FBS teams. So they are 3 deep in the backfield. And of course, at the wide receiver position, I mean, you go to Colin Lacey, who had that punt return for a touchdown. I mean, you could go to Chris Bell at any moment in the game, and that's a weapon. I just think you look across the board, the Cards offense is stacked, Jose. And so I'm curious to see what happens when you go up against a team like JMU. There were 2 mistakes that Miller Moss had made. Here was one of them right here. This was a pick 6 against EKU. Granted, the Cards were well up in this game. At this point, you knew the game was over. It was kind of just a pat on the back for EKU. Way to go. But needless to say, Miller Moss had a couple mistake throws. Here was the other one. This was a little more strange because that ball is probably supposed to be caught.
And I know that's going to show up on the stat sheet for Moss, but I can't fault him for that one.
No, I mean, it was actually right on the money. If you want to argue, I mean, that's a wide receiver's fault. That should be reeled in, or it should just be a drop pass. I mean,
Right.
I'm not going to tell a receiver you should be dropping passes. That ball was pretty much right on the money.
And also give him the benefit of the doubt in that he's trying to complete the play as best as he can,
Right.
but sometimes the body's going to react subconsciously in these different ways, and one bad, tip up.
Yep.
It's feast or famine for a cornerback who's going to seize it.
Yeah, and so we're going to see tomorrow, Jose, if Miller Moss's performance against EKU, if that was just an early start for him to get acclimated to the offense. He really didn't have to sling it around all that much. And of course, JMU is going to come out and they're going to fight, Jose. I mean, this is a team that They can compete with most teams on any given day. I'm not going to sit here and parade around and say JMU huge victory if U of L goes on to take care of business. They should beat this JMU team, but it may not come easy. All right, they're going to be somewhat tested on Friday night, and if the Cards aren't careful. Yeah, I mean, this is a perfect trap upset game, Friday night action under the lights. But the Cards should have the edge in front of their fan base, and I'd like to see a little bit more of Miller Moss. I already know plenty about this running game.
Sure.
I don't really need to see the running game any further. I know it's going to be one of the best running back teams. And we're not even a duo. It's
really, a trio.
It's a trio. Like. It's a trio of pieces that probably could be starters on any roster, and I'm talking top to bottom, Ohio State through Akron, right? I mean, they're starters on every team. And so I'm curious to see what U of L could pull off here. I'm also curious to see on Friday night, our touchdown Friday night game of the week is going to have 2 teams that are obviously, the names speak for themselves.
They've been on our radar, and speaking as a high school football culture here in the Louisville metro, when you hear these names, perhaps one fan base is going to argue there's one that's shown a much more recent pedigree than the other.
Sure.
But not to say that there's not also a passionate fan base behind either squad.
Yeah. You have St. X hosting Mayo. I mean, what an early season matchup this is. And there's the man right there for St. X. Kevin Wallace in his 40th season and his final season as head coach of St. X, trying to get that final championship. He's had 1 at St. X already. He had 5 at Bowling Green. Of course, there's the guy right there, Mason Trimble, to keep an eye on, their starting quarterback in his senior year. He compared himself to Baker Mayfield. I thought that was a very fair comparison there because Baker is gritty. Watch what he does, man. He just goes right up the gut, fights for those yards. He's not
converting the first down.
Yeah,
the first down.
It's what you ask for in a quarterback, and so he was able to do that against Mail last year. This is a very different Mail team this time around. Chase Burton was injured last year at the back end of the season, and so he is not playing for Mail and may not have the chance to play for Mail at all this year. So Mail has had to work with the pieces surrounding what he had a year ago. Mail was able in our touchdown Friday night game of the week last week to eke one out against Ballard. It was not the prettiest victory. I'm not going to lie to you, Jose. There were definitely things that Mail needs to clean up. Ballard has a very solid defense, and this was a defensive battle. To me, at least at this time, I think the quarterback play at Mail, it's solid, but he's going to really need his weapons around him, Steron in particular, to step up in a big way. I'm curious to see what.
I mean, and would you argue Pee Wee he's not a finished product necessarily at quarterback either?
No, and Pee Wee was out for this game, which is
great.
He was out for
this
for
game.
Ballard. He was out for that, and so Male actually went up against their backup quarterback. So, Pee Wee was out of that one. Male kind of caught a break on that. And Pee Wee, we don't know the status yet for Ballard as far as what his health looks like. But I can tell you this, for Male's side of things, I mean, they're going to have to work with the pieces that they've started the year with, knowing that Chase Burton, their main back, will probably not be back. And I mean, Colin Jefferson's a piece that I think is possibly going to be a breakout candidate for Male this year. We just need some of these surrounding weapons to step up. And we're going to find out against St. X if they can do just that. We'll have that game, a full preview for you tomorrow night at 5 and 6 o'clock. And then, of course, the game kicks off at 7, and we'll have the full highlights at 11 o'clock as well. And then you have the U of L highlights. And speaking of highlights, tonight we're going to have highlights for the Sportscast. And it's going to be what probably our fans are currently double duty, watching right now. They're watching our stream, and they probably have Wave 3's game of the week, game of the year, if you want to start out. We'll see how this goes. It's the Cowboys and the Eagles.
If this is an appetizer, what do you serve for the main course, like further in the season? I don't
give
know.
me Josh Allen and Lamar on Sunday, baby.
And it's the drama, of the Cowboys offseason trades and heartbreak for some fans and delight for Packers fans. So I mean, football and all of its different leagues, it's fascinating stuff. Before we let you go, Dusty, I'm curious, in a matchup with and we can. Perhaps I can ask the question of you for both our college game and our TDFN game of the week. Sure. We talk about how sometimes, really, if you learn to love the game and sort of the immediate clash that happens after the snap. In a battle of the trenches, I don't know if you're looking for in either team who you might give the edge. D-lines versus O-lines head-to-head, who you like in these games to perhaps, if that's a difference maker for physicality and sort of which school and again, in high school or college, which of the schools, if they can impose that dominance in the trenches, no matter which side of the ball they're on. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you recognize that fairly immediately. I will tell you this. As far as with the small amount of eye tests that I've had to start this year, Trinity will dominate any team in the trenches at this point. On really both sides, I was really impressed by that. And so when you look at the Male versus St. X game, I just haven't had a chance to get an eye at either offensive line the way that I've wanted to.
Could be a great opportunity to do this.
It could. And I think that you have a great point, because especially early on in the season, when execution may not be at its peak, right, offensively.
But you could then count on healthy players, where it's just like their ankles, their wrists, their things, they're not as sore as they're going to be at the end of the season.
So and that's huge. Health is at an all-time high when you're starting the year. And this is when you have to set up and say the big boys up front need to make that push, because you're not going to complete every pass like you might later in the year, right? Your quarterbacks, they're going to grow over time. In fact, I was listening to college football radio just the other day, and they said virtually the same thing with these college athletes. So you're going to see the same thing with the college level. And Miller Moss may have missed a throw or two this past week. He's going to start cleaning things up. But what did he get last week that helped? Well, he got a push up front. And guess what? You had Isaac Brown score 2 touchdowns rushing. You had Duke Watson through the air scoring 1, and you had Keywan Brown on the ground as well with another. So Miller Moss scored a rushing touchdown, and he got a push up front. I mean, that is what matters right now, is that the guys up front, the battle in the trenches, that is a really good question you asked, man, because that is so crucial early on in the season. It's all about physicality, and it's all about displaying which is the more physical team. Because as far as execution's concerned, a game can swing on a play or two, but it helps when you get that push forward consistently. And if you dominate the trenches, you're probably going to dominate the game as well. So. And
I chuckle to think if I could ever ask that question of someone like a Coach Braum, and they might get a rise out of the question themselves, where it's just like it's going to be the cliche. And I'm not saying or asking the question to be cliche, but it's just like in a situation like that, you're going to take. I have to imagine you're going to take the most advantage out of if your starting O-line is as healthy and as cohesive as it can be. Like protection is everything.
Yes, it is.
And because. And you want to protect the health of those guys in the trenches up front, too. But let's say one missed play or a lack of preparation there compromises. Let's say in Louisville's case, and I can equate some of the other questions as we're watching the Cowboys and Eagles get ready to play. But to say, what does that do for a team's identity if you're Louisville and you're 3 running backs deep? What if and I'm not saying I'm going to blame them, but if the protection, there's a crack in the shield, you lose a guy to a long game injury, then you're starting to see, okay, what rabbit do I pull out of the hat in my offensive and defensive playmaking to compensate for what's going to be a much tougher middle of the year schedule for these schools?
And I think to go off of that, I think that it's important to know, especially in Louisville's case, they have a fairly veteran line up front and on the defensive side of the ball as well. And I do think that plays a key role. We're going to go back to what we saw with the Frogs because there was, I think the moving parts, it was 70 different players that were starting for UNC. And you saw that wasn't a cohesive effort, and that was up front. The center had a bunch of poor snaps. Their starting quarterback got injured in the third quarter. He wasn't doing anything to begin with because TCU's pass rush was just absolutely violent throughout the day, and they dominated the trenches. They dominated the game. So when it comes to a game like JMU, the Cards, that's got to be priority number one. You open up the passing game by using the run. They may not need to pass the ball around if everything goes according to plan. Isaac Brown can just carry the ball, and when he's not in, Duke Watson can take the rest of the way. And, hey, if he's not in, go past those big boys up front that are making that push, and you got Kewan Brown that can do that too.
Love to see the tools. Let's see. As we let you go, Dusty, any other, obviously we do have the game of the week for TDFN. So much more on the schedule. Is there, we'll call it a B tier or the prelim card for the games we're looking at tomorrow night on TDFN. Is there one matchup here in town that you're looking forward to seeing how that shakes out?
Actually, yes. I'm glad you asked that too. Outside of our game of the week, I'm really intrigued by the team that North Oldham has, and so they're facing Oldham County. And so North Oldham has so many weapons, and just a little preview here. You might hear one of those names for our player of the week this week. They probably had around 3 guys that could have been candidates, but one in particular really
stellar performance.
Yes, very, very good performance. I'm curious to see if they can replicate that against a very good team that's Oldham County, and good quarterback play there with Derek Dees. So intrigued by that combo. I think that one could have some fireworks.
All right.
So we'll keep our eye on that.
Always good to have you here. Dusty Baker, make sure to join us tonight on Wave News at 11. Dusty is going to break down, of course, previews for tomorrow night's TDFN action. Cardinals and all our college teams getting ready for their second weekend of action. Again, probably going to discuss the highlights. The reason we're chuckling is you probably at home have, I'd venture to guess you have Cowboys fans and Eagles fans. They spread out quite well.
Yes, they do.
As far as fandom, and just to see what the final score is going to be tonight will be a great conversation starter for football fans.
Do we want to give our final score predictions before kickoff?
Do you? Oh God, what is? Okay, all I'm asking Dusty right now is just what the spread is indicating from the book. So do we know what the spread is right now between Eagles and Cowboys?
Last I saw it was like 5.5. It was 8.5. 8.5. I think it was 8.5.
Do we like the? We're not advocating gambling advice here. This is just us discussing among ourselves. This is not us.
I think that regardless of spread,
I give the Eagles the money line.
Easy money line with the Eagles. I'm picking the Eagles to win this thing, but I do think from an 8.5 spread, that's pretty fair in this. There was a lot of celebration. We just saw it literally in front of us as we speak, and kickoff just took place. Cowboys have the ball first. I will give, just because we haven't had anything that leads us one way or the other yet, I'm obviously picking the Eagles to win this thing. I'm going to say that they're going to score early, control the clock late, and the score may not indicate exactly the dominance of this game.
But do we like a 38-28 sort of game, or even less?
Kind of like that. I'm going to stick closer to maybe like 34 to 21, 34-21.
So you are still giving them over
I'm still taking the spread.
Touchdown, 2 field goals.
I'm still taking that. But I do think there will be some sort of backdoor, especially late. Like I think it'll probably be a 31 to 7 lead going into the fourth quarter, and the Cowboys get 2 trash touchdowns. But we'll see.
I'm just staring at the screen because we're already looking at some early injuries.
This is in real time right now. We ain't hiding anything. I am curious to see though. George Pickens is going to be very intriguing to watch with the Cowboys. Somebody's down as we speak
Number
right now.
33 on the Eagles, if I could.
Okay.
But there's also a flag on the play. Don't you love it? Just like we can't pull. I can't pull this signal because I just don't have access to show you all as we're streaming this right now.
Yeah.
But we're narrating as it's happening in real time. But
Some people have asked me, Jose, if I'm a Cowboys fan because I went to TCU, and I think people are very misunderstanding.
is there not another NFL team in Texas, Dusty? If you were going to say the Texans.
There's the Texans, but unfortunately, I'm a Chargers fan. I don't take a lot of pride in that.
I don't know if it's heartening for you or not that Justin Herbert's my starting fantasy
That makes me even more nervous for you.
For me?
I'm more nervous for you.
Sometimes when you draft it, I got to take Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence.
The narrative has changed a little bit on him.
Pick your poison.
I mean, Herbert's a great quarterback. There's something about this Chargers team every year that just doesn't work. And even with Harbaugh there, I don't know, man. I'm not particularly confident, and losing Bosa on the defensive line does not help. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not particularly optimistic, and as a Dodgers fan, I've been pretty upset considering they're about to get swept by the Pirates. So the Frogs are what's lifting me up right now. Like that's just it. And considering we cover U of L and UK, nice to see both programs get their victories this past week. IU also getting their victory. So yeah, these programs, those three plus the Frogs, have been elevating my happiness with what the Chargers will inevitably ruin tomorrow, and the Dodgers will probably ruin tonight if they can't solve schemes.
And not that there was a veil behind this. It's like, obviously, we do our job and follow the teams in our backyard as closely as we can. We also have our own, not so secret loves and passions, and we're allowed to be rooting for them when they succeed too.
Yeah, well, and Jose won't be the one to do it, so I can at least do this for him because I know that's going on.
Doesn't
right now.
I mean, it's two rankings up the AP poll. Like that's what happens when because
USF's a tough matchup.
Because I'm staring at the calendar when we have to go up against Georgia again.
What about Miami? What about Georgia?
Miami's
what
good.
About Texas.
Miami. I give them their props. It's Georgia. It's the boogeyman we have to beat. You have to beat Big Brother to get that off your back.
I looked at your guys' schedule. I mean, Miami's schedule is really tough. Then I took a look at Florida's.
It's
my
tougher.
jaw dropped.
It's tougher.
Y'all could be an undefeated team, or you could be the greatest 6-6 team to ever play on the face of the earth. That is. I wish you the best of luck, my friend. Go Frogs.
All right, sports anchor Dusty Baker. Always a treat to have him here in-house. And by the way, join us for tonight. Wave News at 11. Dusty's going to be back more with the team as well. We're going to take a quick break here on Wave Extra. Be right back with more of today's big headlines after this. All right, everyone, welcome back into Wave Extra. You might have just missed breaking down our TDFN preview and college football previews with our Dusty Baker. But we're jumping right into some of the big headlines of the day, and perhaps, the most intriguing of them all. New Albany business owner now arrested after a failed motorcycle gang hit job that investigators discovered in downtown New Albany last May. We've since learned that searches at 3 different scenes that investigators were looking at on Wednesday are all connected to this particular investigation. Now, there's a name that sticks out as far as of interest to these investigators, the name of Henry Bachman, now charged with 2 counts of complicity to commit murder without resulting in death. That's the official charge. But this all stems from a shooting, if you remember, when we were covering it way back when, around Underground Station in downtown New Albany. This was back on May 13th, so not too long ago, but just the circumstances and description of what happened seemed, odd at best. Police describing back then, someone fired several shots from a black SUV. It was parked on Bank Street. There was a woman sitting on a bench outside of a barber shop. In the end, she was shot in the foot. Now, thankfully, she survived. But again, just what could have been a much more violent, tragic situation. Police saying they later interviewed the person that they believed was the actual target of that shooting. So in today's big story, top headline investigation, our Wave News reporter Fernando Garcia Francescini has an update with what we know thus far.
The victim of that shooting had told a New Albany police detective he was a former Menace 13 motorcycle gang member. Police say the victim knew of only one person who would pay someone else to shoot him. And while he didn't name him, the victim said that person owned North Star Tattoo. The owner is Henry Bachman. The suspected shooter, Aaron Brown, was eventually arrested. Police say Brown stated during an interview he was hired by Joseph Flesia to murder the victim and his pregnant girlfriend. The reason? Police say it was due to the victim being, quote, patched out of the gang. Police also say Brown mentioned he overheard a phone call between Flesia and Bachman. He says on that phone call, Bachman was upset the victim and his girlfriend hadn't been killed yet. The detective says he reviewed both Flesia and Bachman's cell phones as part of the investigation.
So the update there from our Fernando Garcia Francescini, and the detective also saying in this reporting and in the court documents that he checked Felicia's jail phone calls, and according to the detective, that he's expecting Bachman to pay for his attorney fees. If not, he says they'll, quote, be, quote, really close friends for the next 56 years. So again, more testimony as written from these accounts and these court documents for sure. Moving on to more big stories of the day. KET, we're learning, cutting jobs after the loss in federal funding. Kentucky Educational Television letting us know today that they would be eliminating 36 staff positions. In a statement, the group called it a, quote, sad but unavoidable situation. They started preparing for possible budget cuts earlier in the year. They tried to adjust by changing operations, putting some open jobs, keeping them vacant, and trying to implement as many extra cost-saving measures as they could. They go on to say they would keep doing this in order to continue serving Kentuckians, and that KET reporting to us that reductions today, they started by laying off 15 of their staff members.
The price of natural gas is up 500% since the summer of 2020.
Okay, so some reference video for you there, but in essence, this is to reflect for another story, and this is it's impacting our folks up in Indiana. So this is a story more so for you all. But in the discussion of utility rates, Indiana Governor Mike Braun helping, at least as he phrased it, helping Hoosiers find a way to save money on utilities. The governor says he's appointing a new leader to tackle the issue head on, as Hoosiers have been reporting and sharing that their electric bills have been going up for years. According to the Indiana Citizens Action Coalition, the average bill on this has been going up. It went up by 17.5% in just the last year. So about on average, it adds to an extra $28 spent a month on electricity and the utilities there. Multiple Indiana electric companies say they have asked for further rate hikes. So some of the conflict coming from these appeals and requests, some of the reasons do include, as they put it, the companies do increase construction and transmission projects to keep up with the demand for data centers. So certainly a story we will keep following up on. I want to show you some location video. This was a story where we got the initial breaking update that there was a police statement we received letting us know they found 2 children wandering alone in East Louisville, but in the end, thankfully, they have now been reunited with their mother. Turns out someone spotted the children, a boy and a girl, at around 2:15 this afternoon on Blossom Lane. LMPD sent their photos out, hoping to find the parents or whoever was supposed to be watching them. At around 4:15, police let us know, confirming the mother came to pick up her kids. They say the children had apparently snuck out of their grandmother's house or wherever she was taking care of them. They escaped, and that no charges are expected. And staying now, or coming back to Indiana, in a story that you could sort of chalk up into the strange coincidence kind of story, especially if you're someone who has grown up online and uses social media. It's a name you're going to recognize, but not for the reason you might think initially, because there's an Indianapolis bankruptcy attorney who's now suing Meta, Facebook's parent company, because his Facebook pages, the attorneys, keep getting suspended. The lawsuit stems around the attorney's name being Mark Zuckerberg. And attorney Zuckerberg says his Facebook account and his ads keep getting deleted because, according to the company, they argue that this Zuckerberg is impersonating the celebrity being their company founder. Reporter Jenny Runovich explains.
With that oh-so-famous name, has had it up to here.
So you've never been at Facebook? I'm like, oh my God.
He's not that Mark Zuckerberg,
I'm Mark Steven and he's Mark Elliott.
but he says having the same name as Facebook's founder is more nightmare than novel coincidence.
Not when they take my money. This really pissed me off.
Zuckerberg is suing Meta, the parent company of Facebook, for negligence and breach of contract because Facebook keeps shutting down his pages, accusing him of impersonating a celebrity.
And using a false name, which I've had way longer than he has. I've got better things to do than to sue Facebook, and they have more money and more lawyers and more resources than I do. I'd rather not pick a fight with them, but I don't know how else to make them stop.
Zuckerberg says his business account got shut down 5 times in the last 8 years. His personal account 4 times. In fact, try to find the Mark Zuckerberg attorney page, you get this.
You're off right now.
I'm off.
You've been suspended.
Suspended.
Again.
Facebook, jail.
Emails show apologies from Meta, but Zuckerberg says it still takes months to get back on Facebook, and then he gets suspended again.
The last time they did it, it was over 6 months before I got my account turned back on. So I don't know how else to get their attention.
Zuckerberg, Mark S., not Mark E., says getting kicked off Facebook has cost him thousands of dollars in advertising for his law practice.
It's like buying a billboard on the side of the highway, paying the people for the billboard, and then they come and put a giant blanket over it. And you don't get the benefit of what you paid for. It's not fair, it's not right, they need to stop.
The lawsuit is asking Meta to keep his accounts on and pay for attorney's fees and lost ad money. As for that other Mark Zuckerberg,
If he wants to fly here personally and say I'm sorry, or maybe let me spend a week on his boat to say I'm sorry, I'd probably take him up on that.
Now, in the reporting that Jenny Runovich did, she did get a response back from a Meta spokesperson. It reads, quote, "We know there's more than one Mark Zuckerberg in the world, and we are going to get to the bottom of this." So hopefully there's some resolution for the Indianapolis Mark Zuckerberg to be able to have access to his page and the ad space that he would like to take up on that social media website. All right, it is 8:38 coming up. After this break, we're going to dive into some more stories, updates, and headlines, letting you all know about the big stories impacting us in our community and wherever you are here in the metro area. Always appreciate you joining us, as I say, on wherever you're winding down on this Thursday evening from the comfort of your TV. Perhaps you're out and about watching us on your smart device. Always appreciate that. We're going to take a quick commercial break and be right back with more Wave Extra. We'll see you in a bit. It is 8:40. Welcome back, folks, into the Wave Now studio for tonight's edition of Wave Extra with yours truly, Jose Sosaya. And a continuation on a story that if you tuned in to join us last night, it was a much longer conversation with our Wave legal analyst, Leland Hulbert, and discussing sort of the fallout from a local circuit judge, Jessica Green, having recused herself from a new case involving someone who police arrested, having been accused of a pretty violent bank robbery, but all having to sort of do with her decision to offer this defendant shock probation back in 2024. Now, stemming from that, it seems, and we've now had a chance to interview a new political group that wants to have a say in judges that take the bench here in Jefferson County. And again, on the heels of that violent kidnapping and bank robbery in St. Matthews last month, the suspect out on that shock probation for a previous conviction. We had opportunity to sit down with their spokesperson saying that this case was a, quote, clear illustration of why they want to see a change in the judicial selection process. For them, it starts at the polls, as they put it. Wave News reporter Alina Noakes wanted to take a little closer look today at why this arrest in particular is driving this new group. And this is Alina's report.
Judicial races are nonpartisan. They're typically on the back of the page, so to speak.
Back of the page and perhaps back of mind, suggests Louisville Judges Watch. The new political organization believes there is a gap in public safety in Louisville that sits in a courtroom and starts with voter education.
We need more voter engagement, that more voter participation is good for our system, is good for our community. And so I'm following their lead and ensuring that we create a platform to engage your average voter so they feel more empowered with information for next November.
But it's not just voter engagement this group wants to take part in. In a press release, the group says they'll run targeted campaigns supporting candidates who prioritize victims, public safety, and the firm and fair upholding of the law. I asked Glick what criteria they were looking at. For instance, will caseloads or ruling records play a part?
We don't have a clear rubric, so to speak, set at this time, but right now we are absolutely interested in having conversations, hearing victim stories, so that can inform the way we go about engaging in individual races.
Leland Hulbert, Wave's political analyst, weighed in on that aspect.
If there are action groups that want to show more information, history, and records and how judges have decided things, I think that's a good thing as long as they're fair. And with the political action groups these days, whether or not they're fair, I mean, that's up for debate.
I also asked a few retired judges their thoughts on this new group. One tells me he's not against oversight, but he is against oversight diluted by politics and money. Glick has had a prominent role in Republican campaigns for more than a decade, including that of U.S. Senator Mitch McConnell. She tells me the group doesn't intend to form a board or specific structure to operate. It's unclear who all is involved in this new effort. But the group is subject to financial disclosure. So far, they've already gained $25,000 in pledges and are looking for more support.
Thanks to Alina Noakes for that report and the victims of crime that Alina talked to gain more of this context and perspective for perhaps the swelling of support behind this new political action group. Well, those folks talked to Alina today, telling her that they just want to make sure there are changes beyond judicial elections only. For some, the wait for justice itself is already long. They're wanting that speedier sense of resolution. And you can read a little bit more about that in Alina's story that's up right now on wave3.com. Moving on to some other stories as we unwind on our Thursday. Getting health insurance through your job is about to get more expensive. Apparently, employer benefit consulting firm Mercer started collecting numbers to do a survey, and they've put it out recently. It found you can expect to pay on average an additional 6 or 7% in premiums next year. And some jobs say they're going to try to limit those increases, but that typically means you'll end up paying higher deductibles and out-of-pocket costs instead. The projected increase, at least according to Mercer's own projections, is the steepest cost hike in 15 years that they have been able to track. Coming back to the community as summer comes to an end, the indoor pool at the Mary T. Meager Aquatic Center is back up and running. The center reopened Tuesday morning after it had been closed since May to give crews time to renovate it, make the upgrades that it needed. It costs around $500,000 to complete this. Most of the work was to replace the old pool deck, repair the weight room, give things a fresh coat of paint if they needed it. The new tile was actually also put in place to make it safer whenever you're walking around the pool.
We had a 4 and 5 inch tile, and a lot of our seniors would slip and fall on that. So we're using a 1 inch tile that was going to help with the safety of everything. It's like being in a shower. You know you're safe when you can walk and not have to worry about falling.
So the city has 3 outdoor swimming pools. If you're familiar with those, they're the Algonquin Pool, the Sun Valley Pool, the Nelson Hornbeck Park pools. The city is also making sure that folks know that there are those more than 30 spray grounds and spray pads available for them to use when the timing, of course, is available. And as a reminder, there's going to be a free pool party at the Aquatic Center, at the Meager Aquatic Center, to celebrate the new repairs. Take a look at this graphic here on your screen right now. It's going to be Saturday, September 13th. The party goes from noon to 3. The Metro leaders involved say there's going to be free open swim for all ages. The food being open swim, free pizza, some music playing. You can register and find out more about volunteer opportunities by also reading up on the story we have on wave3.com. And also keeping tabs on some pretty big construction projects beyond just the road infrastructure. We're talking about a resource for our veterans in our community, and that's going to be the future Robley Rex VA Medical Center. It's closer to being done, slowly, but it is coming there. The Army Corps of Engineers partnered with the VA to transform this 34-acre site off Brownsboro Road 4 years ago. It's $840 million in the investment, and it's going to offer everything from ER services to mental health care support. Wave News anchor Rob Wells wanted to go bring a crew and a camera out to check on those progress reports for himself.
Amid the construction materials, dust, and hard work, the Stars and Stripes hang as a proud reminder of the reason behind the new VA center that's expected to serve healthcare needs of nearly 45,000 military veterans from Kentucky. It's a brand new state-of-the-art 910,000 square foot medical center.
We have 36 different clinics and healthcare specialties located within this, within the new Robley Rex facility.
We got an up-close look at the space between the floors that operate as a type of control center.
This interstitial space houses the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and many other utility runs that really make the facility work.
With lots of natural light and a softer palette of color schemes, gone are the days of a sterile hospital environment.
Walk into the hospital, you're met with open, natural light through the concourse area with all the skylights, in addition to all the different terrace areas. So when you're on the second, third, or fourth floor, you don't have to go down to the first floor to get some fresh air.
Connection is key.
A lot of the doctors, the nurses, the people that actually perform healthcare in these facilities understand where we are coming from.
The goal remains to give back to those who gave so much.
I'm just extremely honored to be part of this team and help deliver a world-class facility to our local veterans.
Those are Rob Wells reporting. Now, the project has had some setbacks on its way to getting where it has gone. For one, the city of Crossgate, we know, filed a lawsuit 4 years ago to try and block construction. There's also a district court ruling in favor of the VA department, the Department of Veterans Affairs, to keep the project going. The new center is still on schedule to open next year. As far as where the old VA center on Zorn Avenue stands, developers say it's still unclear right now if they want to or are going to have to demolish it, or perhaps it might be repurposed. As we approach 8:50, we're going to go a little longer on tonight, so appreciate you sticking around, folks, here on Wave Extra, because I want to share this story of a fascinating look back at 50 years of history that our Don G has put together. So we're just going to reset, do a quick commercial break. Want to leave you all on that note as a historical reflection, looking back at our archives. So we're just going to take a small break and be right back with more Wave Extra. Welcome back, everyone. One more thing before we let you go tonight on this edition of Wave Extra, a topic that still sparks a lot of conversation and reflection today. We want to thank our Wave News anchor, our stalwart icon, Dawn G, and sort of looking at the history and how things have changed when it comes to the desegregation of Jefferson County public school in general, created a hailstorm of just, as Dawn has described this and looking back on the feelings that we've, as Wave News has documented, feelings of anger, misunderstanding that had to find its way toward education and that more of that understanding. So Dawn talked to an expert historian and a sociologist about what the busing experience for JCPS meant, not just for the city, but for the children who benefited from that way back when.
It's like it was surprising to hear how much disregard for human life existed just 50 years ago.
Dr. Kamara Douglas, assistant professor of sociology at Simmons College of Kentucky, presented a case study of Louisville, Kentucky, in part on the educational ramifications of busing for his doctoral dissertation at the University of Louisville. Douglas was not bused as a Jefferson County public school student, but he believes the history has touched us all.
National Guard members were called in, and some of the National Guard members lost eyes, some of them lost ears, a lot of broken bones.
After Boston, we're the most violent response to busing. What happened in Louisville got a lot of national, attention.
Dr. Tracy K. Meyer is the author of From Brown to Meredith, The Long Struggle for School Desegregation in Louisville, Kentucky, 1954 to 2007. K. Meyer's documentation of busing is believed to be one of the most thorough, complete records of the time. In a landmark case, Brown versus Board of Education, it ruled segregation in public schools unconstitutional.
Louisville City Schools responded to Brown, and in 1956 did some desegregation. Louisville got a lot of positive attention in the national media then.
Desegregation of Louisville schools in 1956, of Louisville's city schools.
The county never did. The county just never integrated its schools. It still had black-only elementary school. It still bused its high school students into Central.
Judge James F. Gordon was appointed by a federal appeals court to desegregate all of Louisville and Jefferson County public schools, city and county. September 4th, 1975, Louisville began one of the hardest lessons it would ever strive to learn. You can force integration, but you cannot mandate acceptance.
First rallies and demonstrations and letters to the editor and all that. And then on the day that the buses actually start rolling, violence against the buses, trying to stop them from getting to the schools. Where the violence wasn't at Central, where white students are being bused into Central, right?
Black students were to be bused 10 to 11 years, and white students were scheduled to be bused 1 to 2 years. The explanation?
And since there were fewer black students, you need to bus them longer. The national story about busing is that it was a disaster, that the white community uniformly opposed it, that nobody liked it.
Both K. Meyer and Douglas say, hold on, stop the bus, and let's look back at the total experience.
The story in the newspaper, the story is almost always focused on the violence and the opposition and the hate and the anger, right? And very seldom do you see a quote or a story from someone who said, I thought it was a good thing. I had a lot of fun going to that school.
This morning, the girl was walking along in the other direction. She was black, and I smiled at her, and she got this big grin on her face and smiled too.
There was a pro-busing movement. I don't think those stories are part of the public memory at all. I also think the public memory in this community seems to think that nothing's changed since 1975.
Because of the integration, we now have different race relationships inside of the city that would not necessarily be this way if integration did not happen. Because it took a lot of work to be able to get to where it is now.
Douglas wants students to see what happened 50 years ago. He doesn't want them to focus only on the anger and the violence, but he believes they need to see just how dangerous a ride to school could be at that time, and to reach for all that is available when possible.
If they knew of what it once looked like, I think that the relationships and everything else would be a lot stronger to know that it's so far from that now.
50 years after court-ordered busing, what grade would Jefferson County Public Schools get now?
The more and more these kind of conversations actually come to the forefront, the better and better it can be. It was not fully prepped and planned for 50 years ago, and we have what's left over from the non-planning of those individuals that were set there and supposedly supposed to do such.
One more context note from Dawn and her reporting. If you're familiar, back in 2007, and it's a key date in Kay Meyer's book, that the Supreme Court ruled in a case of Meredith v. the Jefferson County Board of Education, saying that court-ordered busing was unconstitutional because it relied on racial quotas to assign students to schools. So as a result, in the present day, JCPS has a choice system allowing families to apply to several schools. And now in a new era with the new superintendent, parents and leaders say they're might be watching for what comes next in the realm of making the educational experience something better for students in the community. As a reminder, Dawn's story in full and all of the big top headline stories, including, of course, the extensive court documents that you can read now of this case in New Albany, where the allegations from prosecutors are a business owner trying to hire a motorcycle gang to take out a target and a murder for hire plot. But of course, that story and so many others right there on the homepage, wave3.com. For the latest push alerts on breaking news, a reminder, the Wave app for your smartphone when it comes to the Wave weather. And we had part of our alert day today. And we're going to be discussing another alert day coming up soon because meteorologist Ryan Hoke is going to walk us through that tonight on Wave News at 11. But that's just something you can always access on the Wave Weather Now app right at your fingertips. Ryan and the team updating those forecasts as soon as they can look at the models and share that information with you so you can plan out the rest of your day. Just great to have that handy. And so, by the way, Ryan will join us tonight again on Wave News at 11, as well as our reporting team, Logan and Julia. Would love to have you all join us for the latest updates and their investigations as well. We're going to wrap things up tonight. I'm Jose Sosaya here in the Wave Now studio. We're going to be back tomorrow night for our Friday edition of Wave Extra. We'll see you then. Until then, take care. Have a good night.